Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week's theme of musical characters looking at performers who perform music as someone other than themselves. Today we're going to be looking at Vylet Pony, a character that is being portrayed by the artist Trixie Lulamoon. We're going to be looking at something off of their 2023 album, Carousel. The track we're looking at is Hush, with an exclamation mark. Got a little bit of extra energy in that one. It's Hush. Alright, let's dive in and see what Vylet Pony is doing with this.
Endeavoring murky fibers torn by a churning ocean. Saints will turn to sinners and sinners to apologists once the cash is dried. Hush now and forever disturb the pieces of your life. Sow together, sow through any weather and reap on a harvest moon so red that both heroes are
interesting choice to do panning on the rapping.
Dies in your abstinence. Whispers at your doorstep that forgot the shouts of the paperboy. Feel free to smile, aren't you tired? You've already a mouthful of worms. Hush now engendered your rest in a wildfire in your hometown. With every battle still and every petal set, life's colors dull into a coma. And nobody weeps. There's a stagnant Neshian served in every street corner.
The beat acting more as a heartbeat to it, muffled with a syncopated rhythm.
Found a new position, the old angler reels a new technique, the bravest strike to the easel covers read the walls of a finely furnished home, teaching a new dog.
It's interesting pairing the calm heartbeat
what are you afraid of?
with this rapid fire delivery of the vocals.
Hush now until you have something to say. Hush now you think benignly. Indulge stagnation, a sickly, cyclical, sinister abomination. Carven blood and oath to no promise.
Nice alliteration on that last line.
To enjoy solace in the stillness of the stale air. Are you fucking happy? Why are you fucking smiling? Is this all you've ever wanted? It's me, your shadow. Will they miss you dearly as I grow in your spotlight? Would your visage outshine the penumbra cast in your glorious moments? How your standing ovation stands no notion nor notice in the slowing of motion to motive.
The little nuanced glitches going on in this section.
This creek that swayed is always and always
just enough additional musical information to be unsettling.
No plastic hush, no babble to babel, one fake, toppled the most still of all things. Hush now and let the flowers will wistfully beneath your staff.
The shift to an airy vocal delivery. Okay. Tricked me. Thought we were coming back in hard and heavy again. Yes, the use of space. So good. Really interesting juxtaposition here between the flowing melodic part on top and the choppy glitch underneath. The muffled piano is a really nice transition idea there. There's an interesting restraint to this track too. Usually when it comes to glitchier electronicas like this, I find that artists tend to use a very wide timbre palette. Okay, this is... the real playfulness with size of the soundsphere. I think I spoke too soon on that restrained palette. I'll touch on that topic later. Doing some gallops on the bass kicks. I mean, we still have a whole minute to go. I'm curious where this is going. This feels like a good ending. Hmm. Interesting decision to end the track that way. I kind of think I prefer just the white noise there because it kind of lines it up into the ideas of hush, the shh, right? The SH sound at the end of hush is sort of that crackly, staticky white noise, snow on a TV kind of thing, right? I know I'm dating myself real bad there. I really liked for it to have just faded out on that. We are now hushing the song, and the song is quieting down for us. Um, what we ended up getting, the gargly, pulsating, fleshy, plopping sounds alongside the high-pitched whine, and the occasional cassette pop crackle kind of sound. I don't quite feel that that was as resonant with the title, and I don't know that I could really say it was resonant with the rest of the song, given just how varied the track is. I have a difficult time really pinning down a specific theme or emotion on this song. It definitely feels like something where the emotional elements move through a narrative based on what the lyrics are possibly about, what kind of emotion the lyrics are. In a sense, it's kind of that same type of writing style that Genesis likes to use, but on a little bit more of a restrained format where the music still kind of takes a little bit of precedence. Every section is introduced by music, not by vocals, but we do have a series of harsh transitions between very disparate styles across this track. So, yeah, I mean, that's just, I don't know, maybe on multiple listens, the ending makes a bit more sense, but I really liked where they were going with the white noise, and it feels just more appropriate to me without knowing the lyrics, without having multiple listens. There's a lot of caveats to my opinion here. Um, but that's really only my only negative criticism on this. Let's hit some positive stuff. I had mentioned that in a lot of glitchier styles of electronic music, I find that the artists are a bit less restrained on their timbre palette. That is to say, that as an electronic music creator, you have a bajillion, might we even say infinite amount of sounds at your fingertips. And I don't know if this is necessarily how people approach it, but it almost feels like at times people say, well, I have a billion sounds, I should only ever use one for a few moments. I have so many more I want to put in my music. And especially when it comes to the glitchier side of music, it feels like the timbre for an ornamental idea, for a lead line, for the bass sound, they're constantly in fluctuation, whether it's just adjusting the envelope of a parameter of it or replacing it entirely with a completely different synth sound. There is just this push to make it as varied as possible. And we can hear stuff. What is that? I always get them mixed up with Ice Speak. And I think it's Ice Ghost? Igloo Ghost. There we go. Yeah, Igloo Ghost is another artist that I kind of think of whenever I think of the hyper diverse, constantly changing timbre glitchy electronic music, and there's certainly a time and place for it. I love Igloo Ghost when I'm in the mood for it, but it can be very overwhelming to just constantly have new sounds being thrown at you. What I like about Vylet Pony's approach, at least on this track in particular, and I suppose more oriented to the first half, is while a lot of it still sticks within that glitchy electronic side of music, they tend to have a smaller palette. These three instruments are going to be my melodies. These two instruments are going to be my bassier sounds. These six instruments are going to be doing ornamental stuff. And so there is still variety in the composition, but it is restrained. Instead of having millions of sounds, well, I guess more accurately, probably about hundreds of sounds per song, we really have less than 50. It makes it feel more unified as a work. I can feel sonic ties between all the sections, even though we have different beats, different styles of vocal delivery, different styles of harmony, different melodies, different vocal deliveries. It all felt rather cohesive because of the limited palette for instruments. I really like this middle point here, still finding the variety, still introducing a lot of sounds, and for all I know, most most of these sounds probably only exist on this one track, and maybe Vylet Pony never decides to use them on another song ever again. Maybe it's their bread and butter. They really love, 60% of these sounds and they show up in every track. I don't know. This is the first time I've heard of them. But regardless, this specific track has variety, but finds a restraint on it. And ensures that a majority of the track feels cohesive despite all the variety going on within it. Um, this, it was like as soon as I said this, as soon as I brought up this idea of the timbre palette, he brings in like some, they bring in some electronic guitars and electronic, like a bass guitar almost, and moving away from electronic drum kits to acoustic drum kits to electronic drum kits. No, I have that backwards. Electric drum kits to acoustic ones. I don't know if these were all acoustic instruments or if they were virtual, or for all I know, they created them using synthesizers and effects, and they created stuff that feel like electric guitars and bass and drums. But the end result is that there's a good 2 minutes of this track that feel very much like a modern electronica meets metalcore, technically to my ear, post-hardcore moments. Even the vocal delivery ends up taking a bit more of a forward-placed, aggressive sound to it and pushing the range quite a bit higher, much like many post-hardcore artists, like that dude that we checked out recently from, Anthony Green, is that who it was that we checked out recently from Seosin? Craig Owens from Chiodos and Drugs. Post-hardcore definitely favors a higher range, and I think taking post-hardcore's harmonic ideas, melodic flow, and even range, and tying them to what sounds like distorted guitars is a really interesting direction to take this track, but never quite leaving that electronic glitchy side, including many of those sounds underneath and between and around this rock vibe we have here towards the end of the track. And when we look at it this way, I mean, we have the bass kick and minimalistic glitch going on at the beginning with the rap, and then more of the poppier vocals with the full on electronic glitch side into the post hardcore ending of the track. There is a lot of variety in here of parts that are quite a bit disparate from each other, very distinct in their execution, in their sounds, in their sonic profiles, just very different sections altogether. But I think the reuse of ideas, even across those, sometimes those ideas are going to be sonic. There's going to be the timbre of the instruments, but also it can be compositional ideas, the layering ideas. There is a thread that kind of pulls everything together here. Um, the song does end up feeling a bit disjointed to me. It is still, in my mind, three distinct moments, but I do think they fit together a bit into a larger concept here. And the fact that there are these recurring elements throughout the three distinct sections is one of the elements of restriction that I was talking about. It allows, that there's so many options at their fingertips. They can make so many different sounds, so many different styles, and they say, I'm just going to choose these select ones and make a song out of that. And at least to me, I tend to enjoy that more. It allows everything to feel just a hair bit more cohesive, especially given how chaotic the composition can be. Um, it wouldn't be right if I didn't bring up production. There's some really interesting ideas in here. I mean, we can look at the production as a whole. It's very clear. There is a lot of stuff going on at any given time, but there's a clarity to it all. I think a lot of that comes from giving instruments plenty of space and having a nice large sound sphere for everything to reside in. Nothing ever feels claustrophobic, nothing ever feels cluttered, nothing ever feels like there isn't enough room for its existence. It is a very clear, high fidelity production that I think benefits the chaotic glitchiness that we have in the composition. There's a lot of moments in here of just lots of noise, and being able to parse all the individual noises as unique ideas while also hearing them all together as the work, it sounds great. And it is a fantastic way to go about doing this because it allows the track to simultaneously have that size and power that all of the craziness ties together to, but also allows it to be not overwhelming. This could very much have ended up being a song that felt like too much, and it never quite hit that, and I put a lot of that weight on the production. But there's also production effects and techniques that we need to talk about here that I thought were quite interesting. There's a lot of panning going on in here. I mean, a lot of panning. And the first time we hear it is really on the rapping vocals at the beginning. Not necessarily swinging back and forth like a pendulum, sometimes on this side for a bar or two, and then on this side, and then a smooth movement to the middle, and then a lurch to the right or the left, whatever this is. It's my right. It shows up as left on the video. Uh, it was a choice. It was a decision. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but it was interesting and unique enough for me to remember it and bring it up. So maybe that's exactly the purpose of it. Even after this section, well, even within this section, you listen to some of the glitchier elements going on under the vocals, and they're also placed all over the place, all on the floor, though, all just kind of huddled around down here. It's really neat, almost as if they were scared of the vocals. Although another way to see it would be a destruction of the audio, as if it were like a found tape. You just go out into the woods. I don't know why I always go to the woods. And you find some tape out there and you play it, and like the tape itself is deteriorating, but you still you can hear some of the music. It's little bits and crackles like that. Almost that it doesn't feel like it's part of the music, it's more of a texture. Really depends on how you look at that. But yeah, even like after this, when the vocals take on the poppier side and kind of go for more of a center channel approach, everything else you just listen and it's everywhere. There's bouncing, there's panning going all over the place, whether it's a rhythmic idea or a melodic idea. Sometimes a little bit of both. It's melodic if it were standing still, but it's rhythmic because it's bouncing around and you got to follow the choppiness of it, which creates a syncopation to it. Um, the panning is a real big aspect of this, and it makes the song feel like it has difficulty staying in sync, staying in phase. It's like two parts of somebody are like getting out of sync with each other, and they're like trying to force it back together, but it just never clicks, and yet having this phase shift. I don't know if that's what they're going for. Part of the lyrics that I did pick up seemed to be a little bit on the side of a diss track, telling this person to shut up and, stuff like that. We'll get into the lyrics in a moment. So maybe a split personality kind of thing, or feeling out of phase with yourself isn't necessarily what's going on here, but the fact that many of these melodic lines, including our very first lead line coming from the rapped vocals, couldn't find a way to stay in a single channel and were scattered everywhere is just a motif that showed up quite a bit through this track, and I feel like it should have thematic weight. It doesn't have to, but it's so prominent, I really want it to. Let's hit some lyrics and see what's going on there. I'm not going to be able to do this justice. There's a lot of lyrics to this track, mostly composed of the opening rapped section. The poppier section and the post-hardcore ending take up so very little of the lyrical density. It's kind of is wild. This certainly fits the idea of musical character, though Vylet Pony is not just the moniker that this person releases their music under. They believe themselves, or they sing through the ideas of Vylet Pony as a character who is what I'm assuming by the album art is a pony, an actual pony. There are two mentions here of hooves and hoof prints rather than feet and footprints. Other than that, there really isn't a way to notice that this phenomenon is happening here, that they're singing as a character and not as themselves or as a moniker they go by, but still simply having it. I was a little worried going into it if this was just a moniker. Um, but no, this is a legitimate character that they perform as. And I'm really glad that this ended up lining up. As I was saying, no, I have no idea what's going on here. There's a lot of lyrics, and the vocabulary is impressively dense. Um, for the most part, I think I understood most of the words, but there's a flowery language utilized within it as well, making use of dense metaphor and abstracted meanings that as usual, goes a bit over my head. I believe the surface level section of this, the surface level read of this should be that something along the lines of our character, Violet, not really liking somebody else and trying to find a way to tell them the truth to bring them down a peg. I believe this person they're speaking to pretends that life is sugar coated and fantastic and that they're really happy, but that they're not. And that everything they do is worthless. That they're just a puppet on strings dancing for everyone's entertainment, and that they should recognize this and be just as miserable or upset as Violet is. That's the gist I get out of it. I'm not going to say I understand every single stanza, but that is a read that is reflected in several places that I think I feel happens enough I can extrapolate it out and say that that's what the song is about. Now I mentioned that there is a really nice wide vocabulary at play here. And I want to point out a couple of these before we wrap this up. I don't have a way to tie this back into the music. I don't see any thematic ties between the lyrics and the musical themes. Um, and like I said, I only have such a thin grasp on the lyrics themselves that I don't know how much worth I could find in creating an analysis and taking up y'all's time. You know, you're watching me. It takes time to do this. To come out the other side of an analysis and say, well, I don't really get it. Because at the end of the day, I'm a music dude, not a poetic dude. Um, but there are some really nice lines in here. The one part I remember I mentioned that some really nice alliteration going on says, hush now, you feign benignly, indulge stagnation, a sickly, cyclical, sinister abomination. Getting the rhyme there from stagnation to abomination and the alliteration of sickly, cyclical, and sinister leading into that rhyme. Very, very nicely written and biting as well. Very strong wordage. Um, oh, this isn't one person to another. I completely missed this section. He says, are you happy? Why are you smiling? Is this really all you ever wanted? It's me. It's me, your shadow. Would they miss you dearly as I grow in your spotlight? This is an internal battle. This is a dark part of someone speaking to them and belittling them and telling them that they're not good enough. telling them that they shouldn't be as happy as they are, that they are just a puppet, that they're just people's entertainment, that they would be cast aside quickly if they could entertain no longer. They would have no value to the world. That's what this is about. So the hush, then, it is spoken from the shadow to the person, telling them to be quiet and never speak again. Never speak until they have something worth saying, and of course, they're not important enough to have ever said anything worthwhile. So why start now? I think that's what's going on here. I think I tied it together. Anyways, there was this one other section I really liked. Actually, right after that. Would your visage outshine the penumbra cast in your glorious moments? How your standing ovation stands no notion or notice in the slowing of motion to motive. That notion, notice, motion, motive, slowing, ovation, all of it just, it's so good. Yeah, I think that's as far as I can get into on this. I got a lucky break there at the end, and I think I did crack what the themes are in this, even if, as I mentioned, a lot of the stanzas do go over my head just a little bit. But those were two lines that I was reading. I was like, dang, that is some good wordsmithing right there. Those are my thoughts on Vylet Pony's Hush. Let me know what you thought of their track. If you enjoyed it, if there's anything that stood out to you, if there's anything that I missed that you caught on to, or maybe you have dissected this track a million times yourself and you're like, hey, Bryan, here's some extra information. I'm always open for that. As usual, I like to learn just as often as y'all do. I sit up here with the camera on, but that doesn't mean I have all the answers. And there's always somebody in the comments type out like a huge paragraph. I'm like, yeah, that makes everything make sense. I'm so glad I get comments like that. And I think this is going to be one of those tracks where some of the people from the fandom come in and they're like, you missed this, this means that, and it's just gonna completely change my perspective on the track, which was already primarily positive to begin with. Anyways, I'm rambling here. Those are my thoughts. Give me yours above the comment section. I gotta get back into the flow of things. Above the comment section in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree in there. It takes you to this menu. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. We're going to check out some brand new music before heading into this weekend's full album reaction on Saturday. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.